Thank you for joining us for another great service at First and LR. I'm honored that you have set aside part of your week to be with us. If you enjoy watching the service, you'll love it even more in person. We would love for you to come and spend a weekend in a service with us and introduce yourself in the guest center. You can learn more about service times and other ways to connect at firstandlr.com. I'm praying that today's message speaks to you, and I'm believing for God to do marvelous things in your life. Thanks for watching.
Life is full of surprises. Some good, some bad. It seems nothing goes exactly as planned. Finances, relationships, career, school, health, life takes a lot of unexpected turns. The last 5 years for me and Cindy has been absolutely crazy. From COVID to Sudan to lightning striking our house to tornadoes to surgeries, things have been anything but expected. Sometimes I find myself wishing for just a predictable, normal, boring year. You might be like me. You're ready for a year or a week where everything goes according to plan. No surprises, no problems. Just a nice straight line from point A to point B. In this series, we're going to study a guy in the Bible who had a dream from God and expected a smooth ride. Joseph was an incredible leader whose story has fascinated people for generations. Joseph's path was an amazingly complicated, winding road filled with plot twists, betrayals, disappointments, and heartache. He overcame incredible odds and became a great and powerful leader. Joseph doesn't fit what you expect from a Bible hero. He had way too much to overcome and work through. Mistakes, a crazy family, tragedy, the list goes on and on. Joseph's past was a big obstacle to his future. For many of you, the past you struggle with is because of your choices and mistakes. You chose a path that led to hurt and pain. You made big mistakes that still follow you. You never planned to be an addict. No one does. It started with one bad moment, with one wrong decision. And now you're finally free, but you're convinced that no one trusts you and no one ever will. Can you ever overcome the stigma of addiction? Maybe a list of failed marriages or relationships litter your past. You have what I call a broke chooser. Some of you, your chooser's been broke a long time, and you need to quit choosing and just let me choose for you. And you'd have a better chance if you'd let me choose. Because you will, good. All right. You leave one unhealthy relationship just to get right in another. For years, that was your pattern, and you carry around that baggage. Your family and friends remind you of it. You're certain no healthy person would ever want a relationship with you. Maybe you had an affair, cheated on your spouse. Will you ever be trusted again? Can God use you? Or you sin sexually. The guilt and shame of that moment haunts you. You consider yourself damaged goods. Maybe you had an abortion, and they tried to convince you it was no big deal. And years later, you know better. You struggle with guilt and shame and emotional pain, and you wonder if you'll ever be free and whole. Life as an alcoholic started with just one drink. You fell prey to the lie, you can handle it, and before long, the alcohol you handled now handles you. And even though you've been sober for weeks, months, you see yourself as a hopeless drunk and are convinced others see you that same way. You committed a crime that destroyed your life and hurt people close to you. You're convinced I will forever be defined by my past. My past will always keep me from the future I dream of. For others of you, the past you struggle with is not your fault. You didn't choose it. You wouldn't choose it. It happened to you. Being bullied, ridiculed, persecuted in school, destroyed your self-worth. You're still timid and afraid of relationships. You were abused physically, emotionally, verbally. Most abuse takes place in the context of a family. The statistics are scary. Those who are abused are far more likely to become abusers. Can you move past that? Will your past become your future? Maybe you were molested or you were raped. Some of you have kept that secret for years, convinced that if anyone knew, they'd never look at you the same. It wasn't your fault. Let me say that again. It wasn't your fault. Some of you need to hear that again. It wasn't your fault, even though you've somehow convinced yourself it was. You can't escape the memory, the hurt, the pain. You long to be free, but you've given up on overcoming the past and you've moved to wondering, can I somehow just pretend it didn't happen? Can I hide it and survive? I may not touch on your specific hurt or failure or sin or pain, but regardless, overcoming the past is a huge challenge. And maybe you've thought this way, I can't get past this, I'll just have to learn to live with it. People will never understand. I'll never be whole or normal. My past disqualifies me from ministry or blessings. God can't fully use me because I'm flawed. Many of you have hurts and pains caused by family. The pattern of relationship in your dysfunctional family caused real harm to your way of thinking and has affected many areas of your life. And I wondered, what makes a family dysfunctional? Who gets to make that final call? One definition says, a dysfunctional family is a family in which conflict, misbehavior, even abuse on the part of individual members of the family occur continually, leading other members to accommodate those actions. Children sometimes grow up in such families with the understanding that such an arrangement is normal. Sounds tough. If your family was or is dysfunctional, can you ever break that cycle? Well, if you had a contest of dysfunctional Bible families, Joseph is the winner. Joseph had 3 stepmothers, 10 stepbrothers, and a stepsister, all living in the same house. That sounds like an episode of Dr. Phil. And looking further into Joseph's family background reveals even more dysfunction. I'm going to chart it for you because this is going to be hard to follow. Joseph's grandmother, Rebekah, tricked her husband, Isaac, into giving an inheritance to Jacob, who was Joseph's father. As a result, Joseph's father, Jacob, and his brother Esau feuded for years, so much so that Jacob had to run for his life. Joseph's great uncle Laban tricked Jacob, Joseph's father, into marrying his oldest daughter Leah instead of the daughter Jacob loved, Rachel. Jacob's daughter Dinah was raped by the son of the mayor of Shechem. When Jacob learned what happened, he decided to overlook it. He did nothing. When they saw their father wasn't going to do anything about it, Jacob's son took matters in their own hands, came up with a plan, instead of just killing the mayor. They killed all the men in the city. When Jacob learned what they'd done, his biggest concern was the bad public relations with the rest of the people in the land. Reuben, Joseph's brother, had a sexual affair with Bilhah, his father's concubine. Once again, Jacob did nothing. Joseph's dad, Jacob, was apparently too busy and important for his children and their problems, except for his favorite son, Joseph. We pick up the story in Genesis 37. If you brought your Bible with you, just open it to Genesis 37 because we're going to do a lot of reading today. If you didn't bring your Bible, it's in your outline, or I'll put it on the screen for you. Joseph, young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah, the sons of Zippah, his father's wives, and he brought his father a bad report about them. Apparently, Joseph's brothers weren't doing the job right. Joseph broke the brother code and told on his brothers. Verse 3, now Israel, which that's Jacob's other name, and in this story, the Bible switches back and forth between Jacob and Israel, kind of like some people know me as Rod, some people know me as Pastor Rod. I'm still the same guy. He loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he'd been born to him in his old age. He was the baby of the family. He made a richly ornamented robe for him And now we need to kind of put that in context. So in those days, men who worked, manual labor, they all wore basically the same thing. They wore a short sleeveless tunic that we wouldn't wear that today, but we wear something like this. If you look at Joey today, and he's just sloppy. I don't know what else to say. But you look at him and think, he's going to work. He's got work to do. He's going to do some manual labor. All of Jacob's other sons all dressed the same way. And I'm not saying all sloppy. They wore the same thing. Same color, same fabric, same everything. You looked at them, you knew they were going to work, except for Joseph. And Jacob gave Joseph a fancy, full-length, decorated robe. Now, we don't do a lot of robe wearing, so we picked a fancy, colorful sweater. And that robe sent a message. Imagine we have 10 guys dressed like this and one guy dressed like this. Who's the favorite? Of course. Those guys, they're all going to work in the field. This guy, you don't work dressed like that. Those guys, ordinary, common. This guy, he's the baby. We love little Joseph. And so we got him a real fancy robe. And that robe was a sign to everyone, this is the favorite. He's not expected to work. These guys, they do the work. I have two sons, Tyler and Parker. If I parented like Jacob, this would be the story. When Parker turned 16, I threw a big party with all of Parker's favorite foods. And then when it's time for gifts, I bought Parker all the top name brands, all the latest trends. He had the best sneakers and the best everything. Tyler was watching. He remembered that when he turned 16, I gave him a $35 Walmart gift card and said, get something nice for yourself. After Parker opened all his gifts, I said, let's go outside. I got one more thing. And when we got to the driveway, there was a big, beautiful black pickup, lift kit, big wheels and tires, light bar, the whole deal. Tyler was watching. His first car was a 1976 Ford Pinto that only caught fire once. Behind Parker's truck was a beautiful new ski boat. And when we walked around the back, there I had lettered on the boat the name of the boat, Daddy's Favorite. How do you think Tyler would react? That was the situation. As you can imagine, it didn't go over well with Joseph's brothers. Favoritism breeds jealousy. It's fun to be the favorite, but when you're the favorite, the others resent you and they don't like you. And they don't care about all your special stuff. All right? And now we're just gonna read through this story. Verse 4. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than them, they knew that because of the robe, they hated him. And they wouldn't speak a kind word to them. Welcome to the dysfunctional family. They hated Joseph. They had nothing good to say about him. He's the favorite, and they weren't. Then, bad situation gets worse. Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. Why? Here was the dream. He said, listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed to it. Joseph was young, not very smart. He told his already angry brothers about a dream that proved he was better than them. His brothers said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? They hated him all the more because of his dream and what he said. Things aren't going well. Joseph should have kept quiet. Not Joseph. He had another dream. And he decided, I'm going to share this one too. Listen, he said, I had another dream. This time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing before me. Now remember, he had 10 brothers, stepbrothers, one stepsister, 11. They're all bowing down to me. You just want to say, Joseph, stop. Quit sharing your dreams. When he told his father as well as his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream? Your mother and I and her brothers actually going to come and bow to the ground before you? His brothers were jealous of him. His father kept the matter in mind. Even dad's not happy. Verse 12. His brothers had gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem. And Israel, that's Jacob, said to Joseph, as you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Now, I'm going to send you to them. Joseph said, very well. So Jacob said to him, go, see if it's all well with your brothers and flocks, and report back to me. And he sent him off. So he's saying, go spy on them. Let me know if they're doing their job and they're doing it right. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around the fields, said, what are you looking for? He replied, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are? They've moved on from here, the man said. I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. Not Dothan, Alabama. Remember, we're in the Bible lands. Joseph went after his brothers, found them near Dothan, but they saw him in the distance. Now, how did they see him in the distance? Yeah, it was the stupid coat. They saw that coat, and they knew that's not another worker. That's Daddy's little baby boy wearing his stupid coat out in the fields. Daddy sent him to come check on us, and just to show how special he is, he wore that stupid coat. And it made them mad. And so before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Here comes that dreamer, they said. Let's kill him, throw him in one of these cisterns. It's a well, so we'll say well. Throw him in one of these wells. And then let's say a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams. Dysfunction to another level. One brother didn't like that plan, Reuben. He's kind of the voice of reason, but not much. He said, let's not take his life. I mean, he's our brother. Don't shed any blood. Let's do something different. Throw him in the well, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him from them, take him back to his father. So he had a plan, throw him in the well. He was going to sneak back later, pull Joseph at the well, take him home. So when Joseph got to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the richly ornamented robe he was wearing. They took him, they threw him in the well. Now the well was empty, for there was no water in it. And the Bible leaves out some details here. We don't know how deep the well was. We don't know if Joseph was hurt when he landed, but we assume he was. And now Joseph is at the bottom of the well, out in the middle of nowhere. And he's doing what any younger brother would do. Hey, guys, funny, haha, you threw me in a well. Joke's done. Pull me up. Guys, hey, I'm hurt. I fell in this well when you dropped me. It's pretty painful. Hey, guys, it's dark in here. Really, are you going to let me out? Please, don't let me die. No more dreams. He's at the bottom of the well, hurt and screaming. Meanwhile, the brothers sat down to eat their meal. No remorse, no regret. He's screaming. They're eating a happy meal. They looked up. They saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh. They were on their way to take them to Egypt. Judah, one of the other brothers, said to the brothers, what do we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Hey, let's do something different. Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he's our brother, our own flesh and blood. So you wouldn't want to kill your brother, but selling him, not a bad plan. His brothers agreed. So let's just sell him. Not a lot of sympathy. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph out of the well, and they sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites. And you think, must have been a lot of money. No, that was about the price of a handicapped slave in those days. In other words, a slave who couldn't do anything. So they didn't even drive a hard bargain. They didn't try to get the best price. They sold him for next to nothing. Joseph was a victim of human trafficking, sold by his own brothers. Meanwhile, when Reuben came back to the well, saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. In other words, he's sad, he's upset. He went back to his brothers and said, the boy isn't there. Well, what do I do now? So they got Joseph's robe, they slaughtered a goat, and they dipped the robe in the blood. Then they took the robe back to their father and said, man, we're walking through the countryside, and we found this robe. Looks like it could be Joseph's. It's covered with blood. Dad recognized it, said, that is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him, and Joseph has been torn to pieces. Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, mourned for his son. The brothers let Dad think Joseph was dead. No one broke the brother code and told the truth. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him. They knew he wasn't dead, but they came to comfort him. He refused to be comforted. He said, no, in mourning I will go down to the grave to my son. His father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. Joseph was sold again, this time to the enemy. And that's it. That is how the story of Joseph begins. Okay? So I spent a long time reading. What's the point? Joseph's family was dysfunctional. Joseph had a horrible father. His brothers hated and abused him. He was cruelly beaten, thrown in a well. He was sold not once but twice, trafficked by his own brothers. And the favorite son ended up a slave. And without giving up too much of the end of the story, one day, Joseph's dreams came true. And Joseph became a great and powerful leader who was mightily used by God. Somehow, Joseph overcame his past, both his mistakes and the things done to him, and he accomplished God's plan and purpose for his life, so much so that thousands of years later, in North Little Rock, Arkansas, we are studying and learning from his life. Maybe your parents were not perfect, and your family was dysfunctional. Maybe your home life was less than ideal. Maybe you made mistakes as a teenager, even later in life. You have a past. You did things. Things were done to you. You messed up. You walked away from God's plan. You knew right and did wrong. You have a past. Your failure was public. You can't keep it hidden. Feels like everyone knows. You have a past. Maybe your past is a secret and no one knows, but you know. I want you to learn an important first lesson from Joseph. Listen to me. Your history does not determine your destiny. Your past does not determine your future. In spite of it, God still has a plan for you. God specializes in creating ex-somethings. The Bible is filled with their stories. Ex-lepers, ex-murderers, ex-prostitutes, ex-sinners, ex-cheaters. In the case of Joseph, ex-abuse victims. God creates ex-something. You may have walked in here today and thought, this building is filled with perfect people. We're just all ex-somethings. Let me show you what I mean. If you are an ex-addict, you're addicted to drugs or food, sex, pornography, whatever. Ex-addicts, stand up. Come on, ex-addicts. You're ex. There's nothing wrong with that. Good. Stay standing, all right? Don't sit down. I love you guys. Stay up, all right? Ex-alcoholics, stand up and join them. All the ex-alcoholics, stand up. Okay? Thank you, ex-alcoholics. Ex-adulterers, stand up. Say, what are people going to think? You're an ex. Ex-liars. You used to be a liar and you're not a liar anymore. Stand up. How about ex-cheaters? You stole stuff. You cheated. Richard, you're standing, got both hands in the air. You're about to have to put your foot in the air, too. Ex-victims, stand up. Used to be a victim. You're not a victim anymore. Stand up. How about this? Ex-sinners, stand up. Okay, stay standing. It's not a trick. Look around. Look around you. Do you see how many ex-somethings there are in this room? Amen. Nobody's perfect. Listen, your history does not determine your destiny. It doesn't. You can sit back down. Regardless of what you've done or what's been done to you, God still has a plan for your life. You say, but Pastor Rod, you don't know how dysfunctional my past is. My family put the dis in dysfunctional. Is it worse than Joseph's? God enabled Joseph to rise above his past, and he used it in spite of those circumstances. You say, well, you don't know what I've done. Are you worse than Paul? Before becoming a Christian, Paul hunted down and killed Christians. His goal was to eliminate the church from society. And one day, Paul met Jesus on a deserted road, and his life was radically changed, and the Christian killer became the greatest missionary in the history of the world. And he wrote much of the New Testament. Your history does not determine your destiny. God has a plan for your life. Where does it start? With the realization that you don't have to be captive to your past. You do not have to be defined by your past. Your history does not determine your destiny. That's why we have ministries like Forever Free. We are committed to helping you discover your destiny, not in your history, but in God's plan for your life. God doesn't look at you and see your past. He sees his future for you. And just like Joseph, God has a plan and a purpose for you. Your history does not determine your destiny, and your past does not determine your future. So you know what that means? It's time to let quitting your past, time to quit letting your past define you. It's time to let your past be past and throw away that excuse. Some of you, it's been your excuse for way too long, and you've allowed it to define you. Some of you, others have defined you by your past, or you define yourself by your past, and you see yourself as spoiled, ruined, damaged goods. Your history does not determine your destiny. Don't let it.
What an incredible service. Thank you for joining us and being a part of our church family. If you have any questions about today's service, if you need prayer, or if you just want to learn more about First and LR, go to firstandlr.com or follow us on social media at First and LR. Our goal is for you to be a lifelong follower of Jesus. And I pray that the Lord would bless and guide you as you obediently follow what He has for you and your family. We look forward to connecting with you.